What's up? Welcome back to my channel where we paint and we talk about life and we're real about it. So my name is Socrates1. I was a former graffiti artist and now a teacher, which everybody still finds crazy. But hey, it is what it is. People are always going to find something they don't like about you. But to kind of catch you up, and to be honest with you, I kind of started painting. I wasn't thinking about it the other night. I was like, oh man, let me just start this. And I'm like, oh no, I got to do this on camera. And I stopped. But I'm actually doing a canvas for my other YouTube channel where I open up Pokemon cards, so you can check it up. It's called Socratic Rips, where I open up Pokemon cards, sports cards, but mostly Pokemon cards, some One Piece here and there. And so it's like SOK, it's kind of short for Socratic. And I put like Let's Rip. So... and then I'm going to kind of do like Pokemon cards around it and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I'm just having fun. But the big purpose of this channel is to paint. But it's also to talk about life. My students kind of wanted me to do this. And they're like, your stories about life and what you experience is something that people should hear. You have an important story. And if students are saying that, other adults I know that say that, sounds like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And they kind of threw this idea out there for me. But I don't know. I think it's pretty fun. And if you ever want me to talk about a specific topic, let me know. I lived a lot of things in my life. I have a lot of experiences. And eventually I do want to go back to be a actual therapist. Which a lot of people are like probably going to be like, really, bro? You want to be a therapist? Yeah, I do. I mean, I want to work with actually mostly male clientele because I do find a lot of men in our lives are struggling with their mental health, and so that's a big part of me. But like I said, I was a teacher. Well, I am a teacher still. I started teaching in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and eventually I was a social studies teacher, became an administrator, and now I teach English, which is weird. And I was awarded Distinguished Teacher, so... they say you can't change, but guess what? I changed. Yeah, but today I think the big focus I wanted to focus on as I was painting this, and if you notice, I'm going to go over the black lines here. I don't care. I'll just go over them again later on. I want to talk about loss, and the reason I wanted to talk about loss is I know there's a lot of people in life here. I think almost everybody that's probably listening has lost somebody in their life, whether it's a parent, a grandparent, best friends, stuff of that nature, right? And the reason I thought about that is I came across a post on social media, on Facebook, and which I barely use, to be honest with you, but I check it out here and there, and my friend, she's my friend too, but it was my best friend's sister, was talking about how this is the 17th anniversary of her brother's death. And, I'll be real with you, I kind of forgot this was around this time, I kind of always knew, like, okay, it was in the summer, and, did that make me a bad friend? Maybe, maybe not. But, yeah, so I've been really thinking about my friend Reyes a lot, and I tell the story about him to my students and who he was as an individual and those connections, because I'm trying to teach them that the people in your life eventually they're gonna come and they're gonna go. Sometimes they're gonna leave by themselves, sometimes they're gonna leave in a body bag, right? And I mean, that's kind of like the harsh reality. But yeah, and I'll be real with you, loss is really hard. I know some of you know that feeling. And it's like super difficult. And it's like, how do we get over that? And kind of to tell you the story so you have a deeper understanding is, like, I actually met my friend Reyes when I was in 7th grade. And he actually transferred to my school because he actually got skipped a grade. So he was 1 year younger than everybody. And my sister's friend, they were actually just went to high school because they're 2 years ahead of us, and they had came up to me and they're like, hey, you know, they came up to me and like, you know, can you, have his back? I'm like, cool, whatever, And then another person came up to me like, hey, can you have his back because he's younger and, look out for bro. And I was like, I got you, man. I'll look after him, because I was a big ass kid. To be honest with you, I was pretty big, And so I started talking with him. We became like really close friends, and at the end of the day, it's like I kind of was his protector because he was a year younger than me. I wanted to make sure people didn't mess with him, and in all reality, nobody really messed with him because that was the type of class we were in. People were like super cool, and we were really lucky to have a class where people were actually pretty chill about things. But regardless, like, that was kind of like the directive for me. It's like, as a leader, and I think you'll hear this later on in a lot of my other stories, is there's this level of leadership I have where I take a lot of responsibility for the people around me. And so I gave up going to a good high school when we got out of middle school, going to a high school called Rufus King, and I chose to go to a high school called South Division. Mostly, a lot of it was because my sister went there, and obviously my friend Reyes was going to go there, so I was like, this is my homie, I'm going to go where my homie's going too, right? And so I gave up going to a really good high school, one of the best ones at that time in Milwaukee, and do I regret it? Not at all, to be honest with you. And I know some people were like, dude, that's kind of ignorant that you would not regret going to a good high school. I mean, I still made it in life, you know what I mean? But would it have made it a little easier? Maybe. Would I be a different person? Maybe. I don't know, to be honest with you. I can't really answer that question. But, me and Reyes, we were pretty inseparable. In all reality, low-key, we kind of ruined our freshman year. Probably smoking too much weed, listening to Wu-Tang, stuff like that. And, to say this, the least, that was my homie. And, fast forward to later in life, and, we kind of grew a little bit apart. Not too much. We still hung out, and I was doing my own thing. I was doing graffiti and stuff like that. And, one day he called me and said, hey, when I get out of work, do you want to go to the bar, go chill, get some drinks? And I was like, nah, bro, I'm going to go out painting, I'm going to go do some graffiti with my friends. We're going to go paint a mural under a bridge. And there's days I think about that conversation, the last conversation I had with him, and that I should have just went out with him. I should have just went with him and another dude and got some drinks. But I chose to go do graffiti. And it bothers me a little bit because, again, I'm supposed to be the guy that's supposed to protect dude. And I went over that line bad. And fast forward through it is the next morning I found out that he was killed. He was shot in the head. So he left the bar and he didn't start beef with nobody. That was not his character, He was when people just want to have fun. He wasn't trying to kill people, hurt people, try to kill some people. He wasn't even in a gang. And he had left the bar, him and another guy, and they went walking home. And to say that's another thing, I would have had a car, but whatever. But as they were walking home, there's these bridges in Milwaukee that go over the freeways, or the highways, whatever you want to call them. And as he was crossing it, these gang members, they came driving up. They were part of a gang called Mexican Posse MPs. And they pulled out the guns and just shot my friend, and they shot the other guy. My friend died right there. He was shot in the head. And I found out the next morning. And I'll be real with you guys. That shit hurt, and now my wife is texting me. That really hurt, actually going through that and knowing that, hey, I should have been there. And some, just thinking it's my fault. And even to this day, I still say I could have did something different. I could have been there. Maybe they would have not messed with us, right? Because I'm a big dude. Maybe they still would have. And I don't think you guys understand how big I am as a person, especially back then. Like right now, I'm nowhere near as big as I used to be. But back then, I was roughly 6'4", about 380 pounds. I was a big dude. I wasn't one of those fat slob dudes either. I was actually a pretty muscular, big, stocky dude. And so, do I think I could have changed something? Maybe, right? And I really hated myself for that, because as a leader, you know, part of my thing as a leader is I'm there. I have to protect the people in my life. And I wasn't there for him. I chose to do graffiti. I chose to not be there with my friend in that moment. And that shit still hurts, to be very honest with you guys. That still hurts. To recognize, like, man, I should have been there with my homie, right? And I know some of y'all are gonna say in the comments, you can't blame yourself. You can't blame yourself. The hell I can. I can blame myself all I want. But I realize at the end of the day, it's not my fault. It's not my fault he got shot. It's not my fault he was killed. Could I have been there? I don't know. Could I have been there and things would have been different? I can't truly answer that question. And I'm not going to lie to myself and say I could have did something. And you'll learn real quick, I do have a hero complex. But what I will tell you is the process of losing somebody, I turned to blaming myself. I turned to hating myself to some degree. But I also turned to graffiti more, because I was like, if my friend died because I was doing this, I should grow at it and become better. And so I did that, and I also picked up a lot of art things, because he was also kind of an artist as well. I started listening to music that he liked as well. And so I started picking up those things, because I'm going to be real with you guys, there's no one way to grieve. Everybody grieves in a different way. Mine is, I'm going to feel bad, and I'm going to recognize there's things I could have did different. I will be very open and honest and tell myself the truth of how I feel, and I'm not going to run away from it. Most people run away from it. And the truth is, in that moment, I was not a good friend to him. You know, our friendship kind of, I won't say it went all the way away, but I was choosing a lot of graffiti and stuff like that over my friend, my best friend. Could I have been there? Yes. With him in that moment. But at the end of the day, I asked myself, man, what kind of friend am I? And what kind of friend do I want to continue to be? And so instead of beating myself about it, I wanted to learn and grow from that. And that's part of the solution of how I developed and grew beyond hating myself, is recognizing that I can take something and apply a reason to it for me to grow. I don't believe in this everything happens for a reason bullshit. You know, I don't believe in that. I believe there's cause and effect. People do dumb shit. But I do believe that we can assign a reason to it to help us have a deeper understanding of what it is. And so I don't believe like it's God's will, he died, stuff like that. It was just some fucking idiots who just got their temper and had their temper, and they just thought, hey, let me solve my problem by shooting someone like a fucking idiot. Because that's what you are. If you resort to shooting without thinking through what's going on, you're a fucking idiot. And I'm sick and tired of people supporting people that do dumb shit like that. You're not a fucking grown man if you have to pull a gun out first to solve your problem. You know, I don't want to dive into that toxic masculinity shit, but you're a pussy ass bitch if you have to do that. Because people die. People die and they can't go home to their friends, their family. They can't go home to their mom. Their mom can never hug them again. But people are too idiotic and they can't control their fucking ego. That pisses me off. That really pisses me off because it hurts. And I want people to realize that people are hurt by your action. And if you kill somebody like that way, I don't know if you can be truly rehabilitated. I don't know. And if we can't rehabilitate you, I'm sorry. Maybe you don't belong in society. That is a whole different conversation right there. But as you can tell, I'm passionate about this stuff. I'm passionate about gun violence. Because at the end of the day, I've lost too many friends to gun violence in my city. I've known too many people that have died by gun violence. I've had students who died from gun violence. And this cycle of letting our family get away with this bullshit. Call your family out. Call your friends out who are carrying guns and who think they're big shit because they have a gun on their waist. Just because you carry a gun doesn't mean you're more of a man. If you resort to a gun, you're nothing but a coward. The only time you should use a gun is in sheer self-defense of yourself, not in an offensive way to kill somebody else. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but yeah, you can still probably hear the pain in my voice that I have for losing my friend. It really sucks. And I still blame myself, and I tell myself, man, if I was there. But we all grieve in our own way, and if anybody tells you that you're going to get over it, they're full of shit. There's no such thing as getting over it. You may move on, but you don't get over it. You remember that. You know, you learn to live with trauma. It becomes a part of who you are. And then you have a choice with that trauma. Will you let it consume you and burn you down? Or will you step up to the plate and use that trauma as character development? As something to help you grow as a human being. And so for me, losing my friend Reyes and the countless other ones, which we can talk about another time, it really helped me develop who I wanted to be as a man, who I wanted to be as a human being within society, who I wanted to be in my community, who I want to be in my classroom. And that his death, I used that pain, I used that trauma to grow in all these other areas. Because I told myself, I can't save nobody. But what I can do is provide people with tools to save themselves. And that's what I do as a teacher. I provide my students with tools to save themselves. Because at the end of the day, they have to be the ones to save themselves, right? I can't save them. You can't save them. They have to make the choices. And so I use his story, you know, to explain how gun violence hurts. And when I was a teacher in Milwaukee, I would always hear the students actually talk about like losing people as well and how it hurts, man. You know, I've had so many students who've lost siblings to gun violence. And so gun violence is one of those things that it's here in America, and for some odd reason, we don't want to do nothing about it. Now, I'm not the person to say, oh, take all the guns away. I'm not one of those people. I am not. I'm more of like, hey, let's educate people. Like, hey, let's determine what the type of guns maybe we should have in our society. Maybe that. But also, I'm really big into mental health, which I'm really disappointed and Donald Trump and the big beautiful bill. Who the fuck calls the bill a big beautiful bill? That's how you knew it was probably bullshit because they had to give it a name like that. But whatever, that's a whole different thing. And before you start thinking I'm a liberal, crazy Democrat, I am not. I am very libertarian. But they took away mental health things for our schools. Those are put in place because we thought and think that mental health is a serious component to stop school violence, school shootings, stuff like that. But whatever. Hey, as long as we can give tax breaks to the wealthy, let's do it, right? That's being sarcastic. But guys, grieving is one of those things. It's hard. And I find, for me, and I forgot where I learned this from. I know my friend's dead, but sometimes I feel like he's alive. Because sometimes that's the easiest way to get through something is to actually think that they're still around with you. And that's why some people believe in like the spirituality component and like that somebody's always by their side. But it's okay to cry, man. Like, and if you're a young man watching this, even a woman, I don't want to single things out. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to let those tears out. It is okay. And somewhere along the line, people said, as a man, you can't cry. I think that's bullshit. I think as a man, we should be able to cry. Definitely I've cried it out a few times for my friends that I've lost. That's a big part of it, right? But talking about it, even right now, just talking about it with you guys. This is part of growth. It's part of taking that trauma and letting it out. And I know it's difficult. I know it's hard to talk about things that have hurt you in your life. But I will tell you, the moment you start speaking about it, it becomes so much easier. The way I compare it is like, when you're sick and you feel like crap and you want to throw up. And when you throw up, you feel better. That's what it feels like. When you're afraid to talk, you feel like crap and you're like, oh man. And the moment you start talking about it, the moment you feel better. And so, yeah, just talk about it and seek mental health. It's okay to have a therapist, guys. I have a therapist. I have a great therapist. I had a great therapist in Milwaukee, and when I came here, I have another therapist. He's phenomenal. Have a therapist. They're great. It doesn't make you weak. It's just somebody. It's like having a best friend who's never going to tell your business. Unless you say you're gonna hurt somebody or kill somebody, then they got to tell the cops, right? It's part of their duty. But at the end of the day, they're not gonna snitch on you. They're not gonna do that stuff. They're not gonna joke around you. But they're not gonna solve your problem. They're gonna help you solve your problem. So do it. If you're on the fence about mental health, do it, because we all need it. We all need somebody to talk to. And if you feel like, man, this person's not helping me, I don't feel like I'm growing, get a different one. Therapists are like shoes, guys. Therapists are just like shoes. If they don't fit, move on. The other point is, obviously talking about it, going to therapy, grieving in your own time, your own speed. But I will be kind of chiming back on grieving at your own speed. Don't get lost in your grieving. I think a lot of people get lost in grieving and they stop living. Your friends, your family, whoever you lost, they don't want that. They don't want you to stop living, because that is not a way to honor them. And that's the next point I want to talk about. Is like, honor your friend. And for me, I knew the way I could honor my friend is by pushing myself to be a better artist, talking about his story, talking about how great this person was, talking about the impact that he had on his friends, because my friend had such an amazing impact on all of us that we all remember him. So talk about that, share those stories with them. Like, I'll tell you one right now. I remember we had a class called home ec. Yes, I'm aging myself. Home ec. And we had this teacher, Miss Macknick or something like that. Mackinac or something. Kind of an asshole. I don't know why she was a teacher, but to be honest, you guys. But we were doing sewing, and I'm just chilling, and I'm talking to, like, the teacher turned around, and she turns around, she's like, why? Just starts flipping out on me, like, she's like, why'd you poke me with a needle? I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't even have a needle. And she is just going to town, yelling at me at the top of her lungs. And I was like, I didn't do it. I look over to the left, like in like this kind of like little cubby coat like closet area. My friend Reyes is on the floor just laughing his ass off because he got me in trouble. Just laughing so hard. And I'm like, dude, I didn't do nothing. Like, I was like, what the fuck, you know? I wasn't mad at him from that because I got him back in another time. But whatever, that's a different story. And yeah, she actually had my mom called. Bro, that lady went to town, dude. She had my mom called. I had a meeting with the principal, and they're like, dude, I did not do it. I'm telling you. And they're like, well, who did it? And I was like, nope, can't tell you. I know who did it, but I can't tell you that. And so, you know. But see, even honoring stories and just remembering the fun parts. And you can cry about that. You can cry the stories you have with your friend. But I choose to not focus on the sadness, but focus on the good moments. And understand, like, man, all these moments I lived with this person has helped me grow into the man I am today. And so, for me, it's like, I think we get lost in a lot of the sad part. And sometimes we got to fill that space a little bit, right? And it sounds horrible, but we all do it in our own way. Some people find getting new friends, it really helps. Some people find that, let's see, I'm going to go with this light. Don't want to go darker or lighter. Let's go with the lighter color. Yeah, some people find that, like, just filling that void with something. Like me, mine was art. Some people get new friends. Some people get a dog. Some people get, I don't know, everybody has their own way. Which one do I want to use? By the way, don't judge me. I am going to be very honest with you right now. I do not know all the brushes. I am a graffiti artist, and so I use spray paint, so I just use whatever. Even like when I paint stuff, that's a whole different story. But yeah, just like filling that space, you know, and just to be able to recover. Because I should have got a thinner one, but whatever. Actually, let me get a thinner one real quick. Filling that void with your friend, you definitely need to do it. Which one? I'll use this one, I guess. Yeah. But let me know down in the comments, man. Have you lost anybody? If so, who? And honor them in the comments. Tell me who they are. Tell me how important they were to you. Let me know down in the comments, because you know, everybody should be honored, because that's part of how we show that we miss them, we cared about them. So let me know. I'm really interested. In my class, we do a thing where we actually talk about the people we lost and how they impacted us, and we say their name. Because sometimes we just stop saying their name and who they were. Yeah, so I mean, the last few weekends, it's been a little tough on me because, you know, obviously my friend, his anniversary of his death. But then it creates this cascade, right, of like, well, all the other people you lost. Oh. So what do y'all think about this? What I'm doing so far? the art? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? Let me know. You know, because I definitely, I'm open to feedback. Like, even if you're like, man, bro, you're so crazy one, you're using the wrong brush for this paint style. Let me know, man, because I'm pretty sure I am, and I just roll with it. I just keep just knocking it out. You know what I do miss right now? And I didn't go buy some Swedish fish. You may say, why Swedish fish? I don't know, man. I just like low-key addicted to those things. I love them. Yeah, I'm a Swedish fish person. My friend also liked those too, so maybe that's why I like them so much. It's funny, I've never painted something on camera, so watch me butcher it all the way through here. That's gonna suck if I butcher it right. Yeah, it is what it is. If I mess it up, I mess it up. Just start over. That's the way life is. You mess up, start over. I think that's an important message in life too. Like, you know, you're gonna fail. Start again. Take your mess up. Learn from it. You know, I think this is the paint. This is definitely the paint I am not a fan of. I don't know why I picked it. I like the color, but there's something with this canvas. It's meant for acrylic and stuff like that, but it just looks like crap when it first goes on. Like, I had to put like 3 coats of it. So, you know, I'm just gonna be sloppy with this here. Do y'all do a lot of acrylic painting? There's so many, you know, and if you have a YouTube, let me see it. Y'all have big plans coming up? Yeah, I know me, like, I have like a month left, a little bit more, like maybe a month and a half of summer vacation. Even I'm working, you know, I've chose to work doing DoorDash and stuff like that. Just a little flexibility with it. And then if I want, you know, I can take a day off, or I only do it part-time, to be honest with you guys. Because I want to do things around my house and just chill and relax and hang out with my dogs. Yep. It's not too bad. I mean, DoorDash, I mean, it's not like today I just did it for like an hour and a half and I made like $40. So I was like, sweet. I will take the $40. I can buy something stupid like Pokemon cards. So yeah, kind of chiming back on what we were talking earlier. You know, I can get intense sometimes. I mean, I noticed y'all probably picked up on that. Like, you know, there's this level of anger that I can get where I'd be like, I don't give a fuck. You know, like, if you pull a gun on someone, you're a pussy, blah, 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 blah. And I know, like, you've noticed that's when I get angry, that toxic masculinity part comes out of me. Where I'm degrading people based on their, like, gender and their sex. I'm like, oops. You know, I'm not perfect. And I think that's just who I am as an individual. Like, I'm very passionate. And as a passionate person, I'm going to tell you straight up what I think and how it affects me, how it maybe hurts me, how to change it. And I mean, am I going to be mean and call people names? Like, if I'm in a conversation with them? Nah, I'm not. I'm not that type of person. Because the moment we start calling people names, they're not going to listen to you, which means they're not going to change. They're not going to grow. Because I think that's a big part of having conversations with people. But, you know, I'm a very passionate individual. Like, you can tell I'm passionate about gun violence because, you know, I've lost too many people in my life to gun violence. All the way starting in high school up to recently, you know, losing a student to gun violence. And so, it sucks. It sucks to lose people, man. And I'm going to be real with you. You know, growing up in Milwaukee, you know, there's a part of me that has become very desensitized to all the gun violence, the gun, people getting killed by gun violence. I mean, even to the point when, my current wife, when she was my girlfriend, and she came to stay at my mom's house with me, when we were visiting Milwaukee, and there was a shooting in the alleyway, and she's like, what was that? What was that? And I'm like half asleep. I'm like, babe, so someone was just shooting in the alley. Go back to bed. Just go back to fucking bed. And it's like, yeah. At that point, I think she realized, this guy's very desensitized. And I am very desensitized to it, but I also understand, like, I may be desensitized, but that doesn't mean I can't be passionate to help stop it. And I think educating our youth and teaching them how to manage their aggression and anger levels is key. That's a big part of it. And I know some people are going to disagree, and they're going to say, hey, we got to take the guns off the street, or hey, it's mental health. And you know what I say back to them? Hey, it's all of them. It's not just one. And in society, we can't be single-minded. If we want to stop gun violence in our country, we can't just take one approach and expect to have a magical change. We can't just yell, oh, it's mental health, that's what's going on. Cool, you're right, it is mental health. And you also need to fund the mental health. You need to get more therapists, out of the schools. You need to give schools the money to actually hire, school psychologists, counselors, stuff like that. Not counselors that actually help students pick their class. I'm talking about counselors that actually talk with the students about their life and the problems, the traumas they're going through. That type of counselor. So that's a big one, right? But people just try to, rely on the one thing. That's, I hear that more. Like, obviously, I think, liberals, they say it too. But I hear more liberals say, oh, we just gotta ban all guns, right? And you're right, they're right to some degree. Like, yeah, maybe some guns should be banned. Should all guns be banned? Should there be exemptions? Yeah, I mean, we have to think about it. Should you lose your gun privileges? I mean, if you're taking it away from somebody who has a felony for graffiti, yeah, if you're irresponsible with your gun, like there's recently this guy, I forgot what state he was from, but he was a government official there, like a comptroller or something. He ended up shooting like a DoorDash driver. Like, he was just randomly shooting, like, because the guy came on his property. And dude was far as hell from him, like over 100 feet, maybe more than that. And when the guy was driving away, he still shot at the car and ended up shooting the guy in the back. Like, there, you should lose your privilege for owning a gun, period. So, I mean, there's a lot of different solutions. But the reality is, it's not just one. It has to be a multi-pronged approach, because right now we're in this single mind solution state. And I'm gonna be real with you. Part of it is because a lot of people lack the intellectual capabilities to think beyond, hey, only one solution. Because they weren't maybe taught to think on a grand scale that it takes more than one solution. Maybe on a micro level, you can eliminate gun violence with one plan, one solution. But on a national scale, yeah, you got to take a multi-pronged approach. Because every state's different, every teenager, every adult's different. And so, I don't know, I'm a big advocate for just people looking at an issue and quit simplifying it so much. And yeah, sometimes we have to simplify things, right? But the reality is, sometimes we oversimplify what's going on in the world, and like, oh, mental health, we could solve gun violence with mental health. Yeah, we probably can, but it still takes a multi-pronged approach. Like, the reality is, majority of people do not need an assault rifle. They just don't. And that's a hot take there. I know some people are going to get mad at that. But most people do not need an assault rifle in their life. And if you think the government's going to quote unquote take us over and you need to have your assault rifle. Well, then why do we keep letting presidents, regardless of what party, take more power each term for themselves, and we don't balance our system? Food for thought right there. You're just giving it away with your vote, so don't worry about it. We all do it. You know, part of it is also like, how do we teach society to be more responsible? You know, how do we teach kids to be more responsible with guns? Should we have more gun safety in classes? You know, where kids actually learn how to shoot. I mean, there's a lot of things. But I'm also an advocate for is, if your child uses a gun to go shoot up a school and you gave it to them, you should be held responsible. If your gun got taken from your house because you did not have it locked up properly, you should be also held responsible to some degree. And I know some people are not going to like that here. You know, they're going to hear that and be like, oh no. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you can start being held accountable for your child's actions, you want to see how fast people will make sure their children are going to do what they're supposed to do. Just throwing that out there. You know, just like when I was a kid, when I messed up, my mom took it as she messed up. She took responsibility for it because she knew deep down she could have did a better job at helping me grow. But nobody wants to be held responsible for their behaviors in American society today. That's a hot take. I know it is, but you know what? I'm going to be real with you. I don't think nobody really wants to be held accountable. Everybody thinks they're too perfect. And so how can we solve America's problems if most people don't even want to be held accountable for themselves? Everybody wants rules for other people, but they don't want to follow those same rules. You know, everybody wants people to stop at a stop sign or not to speed like crazies to start an accident, but guess what they're doing? Going through stop signs, speeding like crazy. Yeah, don't get me started on the whole stop sign thing. If you blasting through stop signs, you're a fucking idiot. Yep. Prove me wrong. If you are purposely going through a stop sign and not caring if you hurt somebody, you're an idiot. You lack empathy, you lack compassion, and you only care about yourself. You may be a narcissistic person. You may just simply be egotistical. You know why I stop? Because I don't want to get in an accident and hurt somebody. You know why I don't drive like his, Grand Theft Auto out there? Because I don't want to hurt anybody. Oh no, I went over that line hard as shit. But part of grieving, guys, like, even right now you can hear in my voice, like, there's a lot of issues I have with people, man, because I've seen people go through a stop sign and kill a lady. I felt her pulse go away. And for me, it's like, I recognize, like, man, we have a lot of problems. And I don't know if anybody wants to really solve it. Because reality is, most of these what the fucks that you're going to actually elect to office, whether they're Republican or Democrat, ain't going to solve shit. I know that's the hot take right here. There's many hot takes today. But they're not going to want to solve the problem. Let me rephrase that. They may not have the ability to solve the problem. Because if we're too busy pawning over to other people and not focusing on the real needs of the American population, yeah, you're already losing. We're already not going to have things getting solved. I feel like I should save that for a whole different conversation. why our politicians suck. And, I remind you, I was a history teacher. I'm a big history nerd. And I will tell you all the crazy stuff in history if you want. I feel like this model of talking is better for like streaming. But I'm gonna be real with you. I don't have a lot of people that are probably watching me stream. So oops. So I'm just gonna do it this way and just talk random stuff about life and kick that knowledge. Yeah, but as I kind of finish up here, I do want to reiterate to y'all. Grieving is one of those processes that will help you grow. It will help you become a better person if you allow it to. It will guide you. It will help you have a deeper understanding. Just like, for example, why I have a passion for people, going through stop signs is because I saw a lady going home, a nurse going home after a long shift, get hit by some drunk drivers who ran through a stop sign. I've seen many people in Milwaukee, kids who stole cars, run through a stop sign and just cream people and kill them. So, like, even the grieving of losing that lady who I didn't even know, it has a deep impact. And those deep impacts are the things that you can find passion in. Like mine, gun violence. I've lost too many people to gun violence. And so I asked, well, what can I do? Because I can't save the whole country by myself. Nobody can. Not even a man of colossal power can delay the inevitable. As the human race falls mindlessly into destruction. Bonus points if you know where that's from, by the way. But we are. And we have to take the passions, take the things that we've learned, and ask ourselves, how can we change these things? And so for me, I choose to be passionate about gun violence, but not passionate where I'm clouded in my judgment and I become single focused and become irrational. I'm still a Second Amendment person, and I can do that and still want gun violence to end. But I ask myself, what can I do? I can educate my students on gun violence. I can educate them on how to manage their tempers, how they can hold themselves accountable when they get angry. And for me, that's one of the ways that I can give back to my community. And if we all were able to do that on something we're passionate about to help our community grow, and so we don't have to keep seeing this pain within our communities, the world will be a better place. The United States will be a better place, one community at a time. And I think that's maybe the big message today is through our traumas, we can use them to help our community heal and grow. Because the reality is, guys, a lot of our communities are holding on to generational trauma that needs to be healed. And sometimes the government ain't going to help heal it. Sometimes as adults, we have to learn to do our part so our community can heal. And I'm going to be real, it is an uphill battle. It is an uphill battle to help your community grow. But I will tell you, I know in my heart that I've helped hundreds, if not thousands, of students live a productive life and to put themselves in positions where they don't become victims of gun violence. And that's why I share my stories with my students, is so they learn how to move. And what I mean by learn how to move is to see what's going on around them and take action. If they see something going awry, that they're like, you know what, it's time to leave. It's time to get moving. And I'm glad that I was able to teach students that, because seeing someone, almost be in situations like that and saying like, oh my God, I did exactly what you told me and I was able to not get shot. I was like, good. But also for them to go off and live healthy lives and, regardless of their race, where they come from, to be productive Americans. And when I say Americans, I mean people that contribute to this country. I think people act like, oh, you're born here. And that's a whole different other story right there. I have a different opinion of what it means to be an American than most people. And it's not because my dad is Native American Mexican. I follow a lot what the Founding Fathers believe. So again, be what your community needs you to be. Be the power. Help our young generation grow to be more responsible. Because I hear people complain all the time, oh, what's wrong with these kids? It's not like when we were younger. But then I see this hands-off approach that they don't want to help these kids grow. They don't want to be there for these young people. Shit, they don't even want to pay taxes for these kids that have good schools. But they sure as hell want to complain about it. So, and I get it, not everybody can do something. But sometimes just making sure these kids have good schools to go to, where they can have an inkling of an opportunity to chase. Because I will tell you right now, if a child has a vision for their future, of what they want to be, what they want to grow into, and it's possible in their head is possible, they will not do crimes typically. Maybe some minor ones. But those major ones that they know, like, oh man, I'm going to get like 5 to 10 years, or I'm going to get life for that, they do not do. So, think about that. I mean, that's a little food for thought. And if you're offended by what I say, let me know down in the comments. Because, I'll be real with you, I'm a human being. I don't always say things perfect. And part of being a human being is we're not perfect. And I think we forget that we expect that we should always say everything perfect. And sometimes we just say things probably not in the best way because we're in our feelings in that moment. And I am no different than anybody. And that's why people like talking with me, because I actually listen to them and I ask questions. I'm like, oh, hey, can you clarify this for me? Because it sounds like this. I mean, is that correct? I think I'm about done with this. Not done, but just done for today. To let it dry, because at a point, just keep going over paint is not the best. It's not too bad. I mean, I'm gonna be real with you guys. All my paintings are messy. Like, this is messy right now. And so, yes, I have a cup of water here for my paintbrush. It's messy, but that's okay. We'll get it cleaned up. We'll make it look snazzy, make it look good, And if you're wondering, yeah, I'm one of those people. I don't invest in like cool, like I don't know what they're called. Where you hold it and you put all your paints on and you clean it up. Nope. Costco, I buy some paper plates and we will use them. That's the way I roll, guys. So as we wrap up here, I just want you to know, you may not know me personally. I may not know you personally. But if you're struggling, reach out. Because that's all it takes. Reach out. And if you know me from my Pokemon channel, there's a few people that I talk to about mental health all the time. So reach out. I may not be perfect, but I will talk with you. I will help you, guide you through things to the best of my abilities, and I'll help you find resources if I can. So feel free to reach out, whether it's in the comments, DM. I'll do my best to answer everyone I can. And reach out to the people in your life. And if they do not want to listen to you, and they don't want to hear you, and then that's when you need to know maybe it's time to move on from those people. Especially if they're friends. If those friends don't want to hear you, it's time to move on. So I'll leave you with that. Reach out. There are people that want you to live and to be happy in this world. And if you think there's not, trust me, there is. So, with that said, this is Socrates1, and I'll catch you in the next one, where we'll probably end up doing some of the shadowing and kind of touching up the paint again, putting another layer. So I'll catch y'all later on. I think I'm ready for bed. I don't know how I was a graffiti artist and stayed up, because it's like 12:31, and I'm like, man, I'm kind of getting tired. I can hear it in my voice, getting a little raspy here. So I'll check y'all in the next one. Peace, guys.